Hello there, how's everyone doing? So I'd like to give a small quick tip in terms of web development in which it would be beneficial when you intend to develop web applications and servers later on. So as you can see here, I'm logged in to my website. As you can see the navigation bars, and I'm able to update, add and delete products. But if I access the same website from a different browser, let's say Google Chrome, and I access local host 3000 and the default page is shop. Now I'm accessing a website, but the server would understand that in Google Chrome I'm a different user that's accessing the website, different from the user in which I logged in as on the Brave browser. But one thing I'd like to point out here is that if I go to my URL and I change the route to localhost/admin/add product, you can see here I'm not a logged in user, but I have access to the admin page. And I can even add a new product and add data and save them to the database, which of course is a problem. Why? Because I'm a client who's not registered as a user and logged in. So how can I fix this? And of course the reason for that, let me point out here, is that all these registered routes are accessible by everyone regardless of whether the visitor or user is logged in or not. So how do I solve this problem? I solve it by allowing my server to make sure that the user is logged in before accessing different website and of course accessing the database. So here I can go to my auth folder, to the validation.js, and I want to do a new function. I'll name it as user logged in, set it equal to the parameters. Since I'm gonna add this function as a middleware function, I'm gonna need to add the three parameters, which are request, response, and next, and point it to define the function. Now I defined user logged in as a pointer function. Now I want to write an if statement to check if the user is logged in. So I call request, and for my server I'm using what's called a session cookie. I don't have the database connected yet, so let me connect it here. And compass. There we go. Connect and sample mdb. Okay, in here I'm using a session cookie where for every user who's logged in, that user would have a session as long as the user is logged in. And when the user logs out, his or her session is automatically deleted. So this is my only session in the database, which is for me, where I'm logged in as an admin. In users, you can see here, this is my user ID, and in the session this user ID, this is my user ID, and I have property is logged in, which I set to true, indicating that I'm logged in. So in my server, in my if statement, I call request, access the session, and the name of my property is logged in. Now I don't necessarily have to write equal true, since is logged in property is a Boolean property, so it's either true or false. And even if is logged in property is undefined in JavaScript, according to the if statement, undefined is false. So we need this to be true. If it's true, I call the function next, which is this parameter, and this parameter references a function. So I call next and give it empty parentheses. Whereas else, if the user is not logged in, I want to allow my server to redirect the user to an error page, indicating that the page was not found. So I use response.send file, and inside path.join root path and access folder use and write the name of the file error 404.html. So I define my function and first I should include it in my module.exports user logged in without the parentheses, just the reference to my function. Now to be able to use it in my admin file, I should import it, also using const, variable name is user logged in, correct? Yes. User logged in equal require, and I should direct to the file. Set auth, and inside auth the auth folder, and inside the auth validation. Now I have the user logged in function imported, so let me just set an example by adding it here. And I added before the function which accesses the add product page. So when I go to this registered route, the first function executed would be is user logged in, which checks if the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, then next is called, in which next calls the next function, which brings the admin page to add a new product. Otherwise I'm redirected to the error, to the page not found. So let me just save this. Okay, it's already saved. Now if I go back to the other browser and I change the route to admin /add product, page not found, simplified.